Hello, this is Dale. It's Friday night, and I am doing the best that I can to get Bill Hunker and Mike Jones to please talk about the issues on the show and not just before the show. Hello, guys.
Hey, what's going
Hello.
on? We're all done here.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. No,
I thought we covered it all.
this should be a pretty interesting show, and partly because these guys are raring to go, buddy. I mean, they have
Hey,
heard.
wait a minute. You're saying that we talked before the show? I thought we talked about talking before the show, and when we talked about talking about before the show, we all agreed that we never talked before the show.
What are you talking about?
We don't talk about that.
It was very difficult to stop them. Not because they shouldn't talk. Of course they can talk. I mean, it's a constitutional something. But
because we are
you're getting it out of your system during the show.
Yes, we are. What do they call it? Autonomous human beings.
You're robots? Oh, no, I don't think so. But you can come on to the show anytime, but talk with so people can hear what you're saying. We got enough of that kind of stuff around in this county.
We need to stop using sign language, Bill.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You should have seen the signs they were giving me. They were using their hands, and it was in a very rude way. So there are a lot of things that happened this week, and there are things that are coming up that are happening, but we're just going to start right out, and it should be very easy for both of these guys to jump in and have lots to say. There was a meeting that happened this week, earlier in the week, where the Republican Central Committee got together. Now, that's their PCPs. No, it's not drug talk again. It's the precinct committee persons, and they get together and they decide what's going to happen with the Republican Party of Josephine County. Now, I would submit to you that the Democrats of Josephine County, I don't know what their stand is on something like the levy. When are they going to step forward and say, we believe that there should be a goalpost and manned by people who are recognizable from a distance as Democrats? They just don't do that. I don't know why. And their standard bearer seems to be Cheryl Walker. Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, follow that parade. Okay, but then there are people who are in the Republican Party. Now, my contention all along is there aren't two parties. There's the old boys network and there's everybody else. But if there were two political parties in this area, my opinion is all the action is inside the Republican Party. It's Republicans against Republicans. And and so Bill Hunker went with Joseph Rice of Oath Keepers to make a presentation that was talking about why the levy is not a good thing. And while Joseph Rice was doing the talking, Bill was there operating the computer. This is operating a computer. And a lot of things happened at this meeting that were very, very interesting. And it is an echo of a previous meeting that they had where one of the prime movers of that was Harry Mackin. So we're going to get a chance to hear some of the things that happened at this meeting. But why don't you just go ahead, Bill, and Mike and I will try to jump in occasionally if we've got questions or comments. But tell us what happened, and don't leave anything out, please, Bill.
Yes.
Oh, no, nothing to be left out. Well, it was an interesting. I had not been to a Central Committee meeting before, and went a little early so we could set up so forth. So there was a lot of the standard milling around before the meeting, and I didn't know many of the people. I knew some of them, of course, but they were all there and kind of expecting to, I think, make some sort of proclamation for or against the levy. I think some of them came that way, and some knew that, and some didn't.
So this would be the everybody. There's a little bit of a delay in this, so it sounds like I'm trying to be rude. It sounds like he's trying to keep talking. Both of those may be true, but it's not because we're doing it to each other. So this is a fairly important vote because we all know, I think we all know, that the Chamber of Commerce, they said it was unanimous vote. A unanimous vote, really? A unanimous vote on anything, but the Chamber of Commerce has come out apparently unanimously for the levy. And so to have, if this is possible, the Republican Party of Josephine County come out against the levy, that's a pretty big deal. So, and tell us.
Imagine that. Republicans against taxes. I can't. Wow.
These days, yes.
Yeah. So the meeting got underway. They took care of a little business, the minutes from last time and so forth, and then Joshua Robinson, who was the leader, introduced Joseph to make the presentation. And I was about halfway back in the room with the computer because we did have the overhead screen, which was very nice facility there at the boardroom. And so it went on, and Joseph started his presentation, and we got, I don't know, I'm going to just guess it was probably 4 or 5 minutes in, maybe a little more, and somebody from behind me ended up, I think, raising his hand. He's behind me, so I'm not sure, but he in essence interrupted and said, what you're saying there is not factual. That is, you don't have all the facts there. And so Joseph's retort was polite and kind, and thank you so much for that. And we're hopefully, as I go along here, I'll be answering your questions. And so.
No, wait a second.
Wait a second. More minutes, maybe 2 or 3 more minutes.
Wait a second. Sorry, everyone.
Okay.
We're just going to have to be bold, Mike, because it's a little difficult. He's sitting in a car at a parking lot near a bank, waiting for his accomplices to come out with the dough. And,
yes.
They're all wearing masks, and it's difficult. Every once in a while, his mask drops down over the phone. So the person that said that, we have multiple sources. By the way, there's a number of people in the Republican Party who are fans of this show, for sure, and some, I think, a lot of independents, probably more of those, and whether you know it or not, there's some Democrats that watch the show too. Hey, I used to be a Democrat, so I totally understand that. They're concerned about their county. And so we have multiple sources on this, as we did the last time that there was something that happened that was controversial inside the Republican Party, and that one involved Harry Mackin. This one, by sheer coincidence, also involves Harry Mackin. He was the one, heard this from several people, who interrupted this presentation to say, well, that's just not right, you're not saying facts, that's not true, and etc. So you've invited someone to come to your organization and make a presentation. And in most presentations, most organizations, you let the person speak, and you let them say their thing, and then you have a question and answer period. That wasn't good enough for Harry. He needed to jump in and tell everybody that this was false information that was being promulgated by the anti-Levy people, to put it in everyday English. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, so that's, and it was a little interruption, but it wasn't, people thought, well, he's just out of turn, and it kind of went on. And then, actually, I don't remember who was next, but there was, about 2 minutes later or less, another interruption of a disagreement over a particular point. Now, just wait a minute. Now, you said such and such, but it's, that's not true, or that's not accurate or something. And so there was a discussion there.
And that was Connie Roach. Connie Roach.
Was Connie Roach, who was behind. There were 2 women behind me with Harry Mackin, actually, and so I think it was Connie Roach, and she made a comment, and so Joseph at that point kind of went off the script and answered her back, and actually for me he jumped about 6-8 slides ahead, and I thought, do I go there? Do I leave it alone? And he answered her, and people were, okay, I guess that's done, and he returned and started in again, and then there was another interruption, and then there was a comment somewhere from in the room about that interruption as far as adding to it.
Okay, slow down just a little bit, Bill. this third interruption was from a woman?
You know, I can't be positive. I just know that the third time there were two people at least that were involved.
So,
well, Mike
okay,
knows who that probably was.
Either a woman or an effeminate guy.
Yeah. Well, we think it was Nancy. We think it was Nancy Trahern. Okay, Keith Trahern's wife. Okay, so and there's been a huge battle inside the Republican Party between Nancy Trahern and a lot of people who feel one way about the Republican Party, and Vivian Kirkpatrick Pilger, someone who thinks another thing about the Republican Party, and there's been this break because it's not Republicans against Democrats, it's Republicans against Republicans in this town.
Yeah, no, that's, listen, here's what it is. It's Rhino versus Tea Party is what's going on there.
Tell us the definitions, please.
Okay.
The Jeb Bushters versus the Ted Cruzers. I mean, if you want to lay an affiliation to each one of them, that's kind of what's going on. I'm assuming because that's kind of how it is nationally too.
The thing that's happening that's kind of amazing to me in all this is that there's been, now you guys pin my ears back, it's hard to do with these headphones on, and tell me how wrong I am if I'm wrong. It seems to me that what's happening at these meetings, and we've been to most of the meetings on both sides, is that you have you're always going to have somebody in whatever audience there is that's going to yell something out from their chair. Always. And it doesn't matter what you're talking about. It was the American Revolution a good thing. You're going to have somebody in the audience that's going to yell out something. But what I've seen this time on this levy is the people who, and brother, you know, if you're a pro-Levy person and you think that I'm full of it, then you ought to just tell us. You probably think I am anyway. But the evidence shows, and we've taped this, that the people who seem to be doing most of the interrupting are from the pro-Levy side.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Usually in the presentations, and we're doing 4 more of them, so we'll get a better feel by the time we're done. But usually, as you say, a normal audience waits and says, "Okay, I'll have questions," and so I'll wait till the presentation's over. Maybe they'll cover my question before before it's over. They didn't even want to wait. In fact, I would say the general mood, though somewhat damped, was that they didn't want to hear the presentation, and they wanted to be sure the others knew they didn't want to hear the presentation. That was a general feeling, and it wasn't specifically said that way, but yeah.
So you might say that they had prejudged this before they came.
It was pretty evident by a couple of things that were said as the business meeting went on, that one of them was that Joshua was asked, "Well, how come you didn't have the other side here? Why don't we get to hear the other side?" And he said, "You went out and found these people." And Joshua said, "No, they came to me, and I said, yes, you can come in and give." He says, "I didn't have the other side come to me," which seemed to quiet them, realizing, oh, I should have gone to him, I guess. But basically what happened for about the first 7-8 minutes, there was enough interruption that finally someone who I did not know at all toward the front ended up either standing or putting his hand up and said, "I make a motion that we hold all discussion until Joseph's finished. Allow the man to finish." And there was kind of just a general murmur like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." And so then Joseph was able to continue on with his presentation. That lasted almost to the end, where Connie Roach couldn't help herself, and she says, "That's not right," or something similar about raises. When Joseph said people will get raises out of the levy, and so that's where that went during the presentation.
Well, and listen, Connie may have been right, because they're getting raises anyway. Regardless of whether the levy is passed or not, there seems to be raises here, raises there, brand new people coming in.
Yeah, I know. And where are they getting this money that's they've already spent what we hear about in the paper, or is there more money stashed away we don't know about?
Well, and this is a very good question, and one thing that has occurred to me lately, because PERS is being a bigger part of this in my mind all the time, is PERS somehow not something that you have to account for in the budget? Because I mean, if we're taking PERS into the red, and it's something that has to be accounted for in the budget, that doesn't jive with the presentations we've been getting at the weekly business session, which have the guy saying, here's the budget, and all of these budgets have to balance. We take money out of here, it goes to there, whatever. All has to zero out at the end. Well, if PERS is in the red, somebody is spending some money somewhere that they're not accounting for in the budget.
Well, that's real interesting, Mike, because this morning, just by chance, it wasn't arranged at all. I ran into Simon Hare. Well, I saw him. I didn't run into him. And so I asked him about PERS because I'm unclear. I wish I'd had a real background in that, and I don't, and I've been doing other things with my research time. But I said, I've got some questions on PERS, and asked him a couple of things that I did know. And I said, well, how is it that when you hire someone, don't you pay your FICA and your taxes and so forth and send it off somewhere? Isn't PERS also included in that? You send it off to the state? And I said, then how do we get arrears by $9 million in the CAFRA? And he admitted that the whole PERS thing is very murky to try and really make clear, but intimated and did not. I wouldn't hold him to saying this was right, but he questioned it also and said, well, when we go in arrears, it does have something to do with how many people are living in our county that get PERS versus what we're putting back in somehow. And if there's a discrepancy and like the market goes down, our county has to make up something. Okay. And that's why we end up not having it sent in like quarterly.
Really? Then why don't we blockade exit 55 and stop people moving up here from California on PERS?
Well, I don't think it's somehow it has to be.
It has to be people that retired out of the county system or something?
Yeah, because those people are paid on CalPERS.
Right, yes, okay.
Sounds like a scientific instrument.
He did not know and was pretty open about he did not know. And I said, who knows? Yeah. And I said, is that RC or is that O'Hare? And he said, O'Hare is the one that knows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Arthur O'Hare is the finance director. And he's been drifting further and further off in the direction of all levy all the time. So I'm not sure. One thing that we would want from a commissioner, we've talked about this many times, is we don't want that kind of iffy, well, I'm not quite sure. Listen, if you're going to be a public servant, you tell us what it means when you say it has to be a balanced budget. Explain to us how this thing can go in the red by $900,000, and you make it crystal clear to us, our government, hello, what's happening with that? I don't like this idea of not understanding. I don't understand it either. And how can it be that Simon Hare doesn't understand it?
Yeah.
Yeah, or Heck or Walker. I'm sure they understand even less. I did find out one thing. The county does not pay the 6% for their PERS employees, but the city does.
Right.
The city employees get paid their 6% by the city, but the county does not. The employee has to pay that.
Well, if that's the case, then, Bill,
between the city and the county.
If that's the case, then why do we keep hearing from them, well, PERS is $900,000 in the red? No. Then if that was the case, 100% the case, then it would be those employees are $900,000 in the red. But that's not what they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is, there is a person, and I'll try and get the name to you guys, because I think it'd be good for the county to hear from somebody who studied this for 15 years that wrote a couple of articles. It'd be worth investigating. I'll try and find the name, because supposedly this gentleman, who I think is out of Springfield, this is his flag in life is to know about this. And if we find that he does know, that might be a very interesting program for you to have him on.
Right. Well,
anyway,
I've heard some people.
FERS is a huge thing.
I've heard some people say that they have tried to talk with him and they're not understanding what he's saying. But, you know, that might just be people who live in the southern part of the state can't figure things out. I don't buy that idea. But, yes, we do need a lot more information about that kind of thing.
Yeah, PERS is a really big issue. Of course, we're getting a little far afield here.
It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. Well,
all right.
What else happened?
Marching back into the room.
Yeah, what else happened at this meeting that we need to know? I definitely do want to bring this back around and talk about anybody with any point of view that feels that all opposition must be crushed. I don't mean crushed logically, crushed with the facts, but just not allowed to speak. But go ahead, please, Bill.
Yeah. Well, the thing that was interesting to me is how quickly they wanted to stop all this. I think it was Keith that made a motion, but it was out of order and out of turn quite early on that they closed discussion. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was evident he wanted to stop any possibility of a vote that night, and made the motion, and then everybody who was around who seemed to know Robert's Rules of Order said, no, you're out of turn, out of order, out of something. And so that was kind of bypassed, but it was very, very early. And so then they began a discussion after Joseph quit about not so much the presentation. A couple of things were asked, as I remember, but just a general discussion about who they were there and what they were doing. And there was little things, well, we didn't know ahead, and had we known, and like the other side had somehow wronged them, and they needed, fair share opportunity. But at that point, Art Robinson also had a presentation that was on the agenda, and so they kind of cut that discussion short, and then Art spoke. And Art was actually a pretty good oil on troubled waters at that moment, with the fact that there was some heat in the room, and he brought it back around about unity in the party, and we had 2016 coming up, he says, and so we need to be looking to that and to how we can really help our county. He was quite clear, I felt, and I didn't know the back of his story, but quite clear that the state had insurmountable problems that were not going to be overcome by 2016, and so don't spend your energy fighting or dealing with the state issues. Please put your energies here in the county where we can do something. He was very lauding of the fact that Wally Hicks got in, and that there had been some great victories with the nuisance ordinances and with Wally's election and so forth, and the Republicans had done some very good things for the county already, and let's continue. And people were very polite and listened, and I think he calmed the waters down at that point.
Now, it's interesting you were talking about the nuisance ordinances, because although they were championed at one point by Cheryl Walker, who never gave up on them, they were also being championed just as hard by Keith Heck, who is a Republican, and they were initially suggested by Simon Hare. He was the one that brought them forward, just like Keith Heck is the one that brought forward this levy. Don't forget that Keith was the one that kicked the levy off in this summer. We have it on tape. And so Simon was the initial one to bring the nuisance ordinances forward. It's interesting then to hear Republicans say, well, we were able to defeat those ordinances. The Republicans, they're all over the place. And unity would probably be a real good thing.
Well, and that was definitely his point, and he was fairly impassioned in his very smooth verbiage. He was pretty impassioned about. He said one of the lines that was very clear. He said, "If we had a vote tonight, you and I both know which way it's going to go, and I suggest that we end up having some unity here." And he wanted to actually go out to Republicans who were pro-levy. And had publicly said so in various ways, and discuss with them. And then there was immediately that, toward the end, that started another whole round of discussion that went quite a long while, actually, and it was all over the room.
And that part of the discussion,
then,
a large part of that discussion was about precinct committee persons. Now there's this huge push, at least they say there's going to be a huge push. Now, don't forget that the pro-Levy people put out emails to each other and also announcements on websites. We all got to go to this anti-Levy presentation and show and be there and discuss things and be there to represent our point of view. And as far as I could tell, none of them showed up. But what happened at this meeting was there was a lot of talk about, well, we're going to sign up more PCPs. Now, why does that make a difference? Because if you sign up PCPs, then they get to vote, even if it's at the last moment. So there's this huge push right now, apparently, on going out and going around the community and finding people that can be PCPs that are pro-Levy and stuffing them onto this. If you think that that's the American way, then ta-da, your point of view is winning. That we're going to stuff them onto this thing, and they're all going to vote against vote to not to have the party not oppose. Oh, geez, if I can only speak English, that they're going to be pro-Levy votes for the Republican Party. Now, then there's some thought of, well, maybe the anti-Levy side should do the same thing. And the person I talked to about this, don't do that. I mean, that's stuffing the ballot box. But here's what I said to Joshua Robinson, who is Art Robinson's son. I said, you know, here's what you ought to consider. Now, don't anybody be thinking that he's taking advice from me, because I just sort of said a bunch of stuff, and then he said, you know, I'm wondering whether, and I'm going, yeah, because you can lead a horse to water, right? And he said, well, maybe what we should do, I don't know if they're going to do this, but maybe what we should do is we need the new PCPs, yes, but to keep the process fair, maybe what we should do is at the next meeting, we'd have the vote first and then welcome the new PCPs.
Yes.
That would solve that stuffing problem, buddy.
Well,
I mean, even if they're from both sides.
Listen, I got to tell you, you know, if this is the way the game is played, then you do what you have to do. You know, this is just a battle within the party. Here's the problem, is that the Republicans of my stripe are far too timid. You know, they don't go after the political prize like they ought to. They don't fight with gusto and you know, unashamed. You know, here's who I am, which I think they really should do. It's been shown to work over and over, but you have gutless wonders who just don't have the huevos to do that.
Wow.
And I think that you know, if you have to do what you have to do to win, that's what you do. Because I'll tell you what, nothing sickens me more than insider Republicans. That just makes me ill. They're fighting for tax increases. And let's understand something here. Let's cut out the BS. These are not people who are greatly in favor of, you know, maybe they believe in their heart of hearts that this is actually going to help law enforcement in this county. This is a blip on a little graph here. This is nothing what they're proposing, and it's not going to do much of anything but push money into government, and that's what these people are in favor of, and so I despise them.
All right.
Now that was Mike Jones. That was not Bill Hunker that said that.
Oh, okay.
By the way,
run away, Bill! Run away!
No, wait a second. It needs to be made absolutely clear. Bill is not part of that meeting that was happening. Bill is an independent, right, Bill?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Bill is he's not a precinct committee person. He's not here officially representing the Republican Party, and this sign over my shoulder is not an official pro-Levy sign, and this thing that says vote doesn't mean that we represent all people who vote. I mean, come on. No, Bill does not. He's not an official representative of these. I don't mind being. I would like to be an official representative of this sign, but it doesn't mean that. And when I've got ABC over my shoulder, it doesn't mean I've deluded myself into thinking I work for ABC. Okay, so nobody represents anything, and especially Mike. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, especially Mike. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think the thing that was missed that could have happened, and after the discussion or after the meeting was over, there was a lot of discussion. We maybe chat a moment about that. But one of the things that was said to me was that here you have the Republican Party that, as far back as I can remember, was anti-taxes, just in general, and smaller government, manageable smaller government. And this person said, you know, they could have had a vote, they could have actually budgeted some money for it and gone out and had a campaign and done something. He said, what we do is talk, we don't do anything. And he was a Republican and was frustrated by the fact that, again, everybody was there, the vote was there, and they decided to shuffle. And I kind of agreed with that. Just looking on, the time is short. People need information. A lot of people who don't study the issues like to have an idea of what's going on in their party. And when you left this, you were no further ahead for leadership on what was going on, other than sometime in 2016 we all were going to get together, evidently as Republicans, and do something, and they weren't too sure what. So I think opportunity was missed for leadership and action would be my summation of what happened that evening.
Bill, is it your impression at all that anybody left this thing with their mind changed from when they came in?
I don't believe so. I think that tends to be true in the county in many ways, that particularly people in the know have pretty much, and who show up, pretty much have their minds made up. You know, I think there are a few. I could never speak for who they might have been there. I doubt that any minds were changed.
So Mike, why do you then think that Keith Trahern in social media is saying that he hasn't made up his mind about the levy?
Oh, I think he's lying about it. You know, I mean, it's pretty obvious from the flavor, and he's probably pretty heavily influenced by his wife, who was in the tank. You know, I think that was pretty clear from, you know, some of the stuff she was saying. She may have been saying that her mind wasn't made up, but it's made up. You know, listen, if you got people yelling out of the audience, you know, their mind is made up.
They were pushing hard for it.
I'm a little surprised. Well, this is controversial. I'm saying it partly for comedic effect, but I'm a little surprised that there are people who haven't made up their mind about whether they like the levy or not. You know, I'm just not quite sure. You know,
especially if they're politically involved at all.
If you haven't made up your mind and you're politically involved, please don't vote. I mean, if you don't know the way that you feel by now, just don't vote. Come on now. Okay, and it's like these rallies that are held for either side. Really, honestly now, Bill and I talked about this. Well, maybe people will be there, and Bill might not like this, but maybe people will be there, and this will help make up. And I said, Bill, there might be two people that show up at this anti-levy thing that haven't made up their mind. Everybody else will be there representing either one side or another, and they're just going to hear talking points for when they speak with their neighbors.
Right. Yes, but I take issue with that because
no, I'm going to shut you up.
It isn't the people that are there.
I have to interrupt you. You'll never be able to talk in front of me ever again. No, sorry. Go ahead. I was doing.
Oh, hey, listen. You don't have to convince me to take a week off of this program. I'll do that in a minute.
Oh, we're coming up on our 100th show.
So yeah, anytime you want the show all to yourself, you just let me know. I'll let you have it.
We're coming up on 100 shows in a row. He knows how much I love it.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing.
Wow, boy,
Yeah.
kudos to you guys.
That's amazing.
Kudos to you guys, absolutely.
Sometimes, I mean, it takes years for some people to get to that level of doing 100 shows. Anyway, back to what I was taking issue with here. When you it is a seminar for the, for our side, but the bottom line is a lot of people they're for it or against it. They don't know. They don't have the facts solid. They want to be able to talk about it, and they're going to go out and proselytize a little bit. And I think that it's helpful to give them the ammunition to do that.
Yeah, I've realized that there are quite a lot of, well, I would say the majority of low information voters who maybe feel kind of leaning, or I'm kind of there, or maybe I'd even say no or yes, but they don't really know why. They don't like taxes, and that's the end of their argument. And then somebody comes along and says, yes, but the children, and they don't know what to say back. And so I think for that crowd, our efforts are worth it, but I do think those usually who show up are looking more for feeling included, and they do have the right information and hopefully gain some more information than say, oh, I'm totally undecided, help me make up my mind.
Well, it's kind of what I was trying to say, but
okay. People who get out in the night and go to their car, they've got some idea of what they're doing politically.
So, Bill, you were there at the First Friday celebration stuff. Even though it's a little cool, did you see anybody on the street corners proselytizing? Never mind. Don't answer that question.
No, I doubt seriously. We handed out some brochures tonight, the little cards thing that we've got upcoming forums in Williams and Merlin, and we do have dates and times now for Cave Junction, Williams, Merlin, and Sunny Valley.
Wow!
And so we were handing out cards with those dates and times for people, and we'll be doing more of that specific to those areas in this next 2 weeks, because they're all happening within a week of each other toward the end of April. Because I think that people, being honest, people are not going to really wake up to this till the ballot arrives. They say, what's this? Are we having an election?
Yeah.
And, that's that. I don't know anything about this. So the voter pamphlet will help, and then hopefully at that point there'll be more information from neighbors and we don't have, as a county, our voter turnout is fairly low in a May election. I know last on the 14th it was 25,000 people came out. Well, that's half of our voters, and so we're just hoping that when that moment arrives, we can be prepared with information for them.
Well, as they said in the SOS. Go ahead, Mike.
Is the schedule for your, with the dates and times and everything, is that on your website?
Yes, and that'll be updated tonight. We just got Merlin found today and pinned down. So those Cave Junction, Williams, and Sunny will actually be. It's pretty easy to remember. Cave Junction is 21st, Williams is 22nd, and Sunny Valley is the 23rd.
Wow.
And then Merlin is a week later at the 28th.
Now, Bill, you were there, as I said, at First Friday. You're now sitting in a bank parking lot. Do you see any evidence of the buses that have come in that are filled full of criminals that are here to spread hate and discontent?
The hate and discontent crowd couldn't make it tonight. They sent their apologies. They said they'd try and make it when there's a bigger crowd, because you need people around to spread the hate and discontent.
That's right.
And there wasn't enough tonight, so they just didn't feel it would be an effort worth their time.
They're such unusual criminals. I mean, they've really changed their tactics. They're just like, what are they like, Mike, like Ebola? No, they're just like, what are they like? They're just like ISIS.
Yes.
Oh, ISIS.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're absolutely multiplying as we speak, I'm sure.
Minus the RPGs for now.
Do you think it's possible in this county to have some kind of controversy about something where you don't seem to have one side who's so hopping mad that they would steal signs? Oh, it happens in all sides. No, listen. Yeah, there's always some, well, everybody's doing it. No, No. There's usually one side that's doing it much more than any other side. You can figure out for yourself who you think that might be this time, but we're hearing reports from people, oh, all my signs are disappearing. They crush all possibility of speaking. They interrupt us at the weekly business session. They interrupt presentations in, like, the Republican gathering. Hello, Harry. And they're just, in my opinion, they're not very good Americans.
Well,
yeah, it's sad. It's sad.
Well, it bothers me when, listen, everybody knows that the Democrats are not in favor of voter ID laws because if there was voter IDs, then their people couldn't cheat. But you got a similar thing going on here. If somebody's stealing the signs, who is that that's stealing the signs? That's the dirty side. I haven't heard any of that, by the way. As a matter of fact, I haven't been in town a whole lot. I'm usually there very early in the morning, but I haven't seen a single 1766 bumper sticker or yard sign yet. I know that they exist because people have told me they've seen them, but
they're not allowed in the county till Sunday, Mike. Excuse me, in the city. In the city of Grants Pass, you can't do it till 45 days ahead, and that's Sunday. This Sunday.
Okay.
So you will start to see them Sunday in the city. They are out in the county, scattered here and there. There's going to be another push, I think, for signage along with the city because people are saying, "Oh, where are the signs and where can I get them?" But you're absolutely right. In the city, and I think probably if somebody's putting them up in the city, there would be some do-gooder who would come along and say, well, that's illegal, and I'm going to take it down.
Don't touch somebody else's signs,
so
even if
it's
illegal.
Happening.
You leave those signs alone, and if you think it's illegal, you tell the city that I think that this has happened, and we'll see if they decide to enforce it. I'm going to kind of wrap it up here, guys, with tying in this thing about signs to Simon Hare. So when he ran for office, you've heard me mention this, I think, once before, Simon Hare, some people went over to his headquarters to talk to him about some things that they were kind of concerned about. And when they were in his headquarters, they found a whole bunch of signs for other candidates that had been stolen. And Simon was keeping them in his headquarters. And they asked him about this. Why are you keeping stolen things? I mean, that's illegal in itself. In your headquarters. And Simon says, well, sometimes my advocates get a little out of hand. I know that because they steal signs, and other people, their signs were destroyed because they were Simon Hare supporters. And one guy jumped over a fence and grabbed up a sign, although it was on somebody's property. What are you doing there, bud? And so they asked Simon about, well, I intend to return those signs. And they said, oh, after the election? Well, maybe before. Anyway, this was the time where Simon Hare had said, he was upset that these guys were pointing out things that were being done by him personally and by his people that were illegal. And he said, I don't want you talking with the press or anybody else. I've got friends that are illegal. Oh, does that sound familiar? Hey, Doug Deacon, sound familiar to you, buddy? And he said, I may very well throw up all my support behind Dave Toller. Really? And I said to them, did you talk with them and say, do you think your supporters know that you may throw up all your support, throw up my support, I love that phrase, behind Dave Toller? Well, so here's the point.
Wow.
Here's the point about this thing with Simon Hare and the signs. I saw Simon in the hallway on Thursday, and I walked up to him and I said, I understand that you've been saying, and we've got this from several sources, that you believe that this levy is going to pass, it's going to pass, and it's going to wipe out the opposition. It's absolutely, this levy is going to happen. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be a blowout in favor of the levy. Is that true? And he said, well, I'd probably say now it's about 50-50.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting.
Well, now, did he say at the that Levy event, did he actually say that he thought that the levy was going to pass?
No, he's saying that to others.
And what event is that?
Independently.
At the ambassador?
No, independently. You know, outside of the public eye. Right. And he didn't deny. I mean, I came and I said, I've heard that you.
Yes, it was not a public statement.
No, but it was a statement to people who are supporters and that kind of stuff. And so here he is saying this. There's no doubt that he said it because I've heard this from three different people. Three people I trust. Plus, I asked him, "Is that right?" Because I thought this will be interesting. And also, I don't mind asking him questions to get him a little bit on edge. It's okay. My mother told me I could do that. And so now he's saying it's gone from 100% down to 50%. It's kind of the opposite of Mike and I working on this. Remember we were talking about the sheriff who'd given us these facts and you put them next, wow, that looks amazing. Yeah, but it's only representing 2 or 6 or 19. And so I said, well, I talked to the chief. It was the chief, rather. And I said to him, you know, there used to be one person working on the show. Now there's 2 of us. It's 100% jump. It's 2 people. Right? And so now what's happened with Simon, he's just gone from 100% down to 50%. Well, even Simon's saying it's a 50-50 deal.